Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the City of Liberty Lake Parks and Arts Commission on Monday, August 7th, 2023, and it's 4 p.m. First of all, I'd like to go through the roll call. Commissioners Nancy Hill, me, present. David Heimbach.
Present.
Laura Frank, present. Tom Chamberlain.
I do recall him saying he was gonna be out of this meeting. I think he told us at the last meeting.
Okay. Okay. John Barr. Also not present. Noel Laparco, I believe I see your smiling face online.
Yes, I am here, present.
And Bob Schneidmiller.
Present.
Oh, and let the record show that John Barr has joined us. Hello, John. Just a reminder to everyone, our staff here today, Tate Hunter, who's doing our notes and stuff, and Jen Camp, and we have our city administrator, Mark McAvoy. And this is Be Nice to Tate Day. We need to make sure we speak into the microphone so that the recording is clear, and that'll make her job easier on the back end. So just a little housekeeping reminder. Did anyone have a chance to look at the July 10, 2023 minutes? And if so, are there any corrections or additions that we've missed?
Move to approve the July meeting minutes.
Second that.
It's been moved and approved. All in favor? So the motion has passed. So we'll move on to our citizen comments portion. I don't see anybody in the room. Is there anybody online?
No comments.
No citizen comments. All right, we'll move into item 5, which is our unfinished and new business. First thing we're going to look at is the terms ending. And if you look on like the third page of your handouts, 3 pages under the agenda, you'll see the list of positions there. And we have 3 positions that are coming to an end at the end of this year. John, yours, mine, and Tom's. So I know we've had trouble making a quorum a few times. So if you know in advance if your what your plans are, and you can let us know, then if someone isn't returning, which I hope everyone does, then we could have time to advertise and get a new commissioner on board for the first of the year. So does anybody have any questions? Jen, you want to say what that process is?
Yeah, so in the next couple of months, we'll, and I can't remember if, I'll have to follow up with the mayor on kind of what she wants to do. If she wants to meet with, if you share with me that you want to retain your position, I'll have to get with her on the process of how she wants to handle that. But what we'll do is post for openings, and then it'll go before council, hopefully sometime in December for approval, so that then if it's new, well, it will be a new position. It will start January, that first meeting of January. So we wanted the goal to be good to go before that first January meeting. Okay. And I just sent an email to the Ridgeline High School as well, to the art teacher, letting her know to put the bug out in the kids' ears that we will have an opening for the 23-24 school year. So hopefully we'll get that student position filled.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, that's a
Nice.
great, thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And if you could find out from the mayor, maybe by our next meeting, and
Yes.
then we can take that information and go from there. All right. So the next thing is our Hooptown update, and also in your packet, if you turn one more page, there's some new drone footage at Barefoot in the Park. It was so cool when I got out to go work at the booth. I saw the artist there. I got to meet her. She is awesome and so excited about the project. And I was able to share about the project through the booth. We had some pictures made of the mural and the first drone we had of the court. And I was telling kids, imagine, this picture being inserted into the space. And they were like, whoa. It was really but Well, that's all started up. One thing in, looking at this and taking some pictures over there, I sent them to Riley Stockton at, Hoop Fest, which Hooptown USA is the one we're, hoping to partner with on, the basketball goals. And he is waiting for some feedback, but the bottom line is the way the posts are in there now, we can't really add a new backboard to them. We need the whole, what I would call goal assembly unit. And they're roughly $5,000 each installed, so we need 4 of them, that's 20,000. I've been talking back and forth to Riley Stockton, it sounds like they'll cover at least 2 of them. And maybe all of them, but he's waiting for a firm commitment on the cost, from their vendor, which happens to be Arrow, which happens to be the people doing the sport court refinishing, so, we're waiting to hear back, but I'm cautiously optimistic that we have the money in the budget if we had to pay the whole 20,000. But I feel comfortable that we're only gonna have to do at the most 10, so that frees up roughly $10,000 in the budget if we wanna complete another project, which we can get to later in the agenda. So, the artist, do you have any updates on anything? Anybody talked to her?
No, I think, she's gonna finish up the lines, hopefully, I think she said by the end of this week, and then the paint is shipping as of today. I don't know how long it'll take, we're working with her on setting up a pod storage unit at temporarily for the couple weeks she's gonna be there at the park, so she can store her supplies. But yeah, she's definitely moving right along.
Great, that's awesome. That is awesome, and it's such an exciting project, and it's gonna be so visually, the impact of that is gonna be incredible, with the colors, so super exciting. So moving on to Trailhead Art. And I will be the first to say I haven't been in the building yet. Kinda got busy.
I did go.
You did? What can you share with us?
If I'm understanding correctly, it's the blank walls, the hallway between the pro shop and the restaurant.
Correct.
That,
Okay,
Yeah.
is it?
Right outside the,
And there's
pro shop.
yeah, so you have that hallway and there's the restrooms, right? And then is the drinking fountain right there as well, or close to? I mean, there's some wall space if we wanted to do similar to what I think a lot of restaurants around town do, where you feature a local artist and have some local art displayed. I think there's for sure opportunity. I wasn't really sure in terms of the restaurant space is still unfinished. So in terms of, is there a potential to use that beam for a bench or what the restaurant is planning outside of that space, if anything?
Do you think, and David weigh in on this, do you think that we should wait until the restaurant opens and kind of see a little bit more what that looks like? And
I don't feel like there's a rush, and I would say, if I'm remembering correctly, it's Adam Hegstead is doing the restaurant. His wife is the director of Emerge, which is an art gallery in Coeur d'Alene, and it provides space for emerging artists to work and display. So she might be a good connection as well in terms of tying in to whatever he's doing in the restaurant, but also connecting us with local artists that are just getting their name out there.
yeah, I sure would love to see that being go in there as some kind of art, whether it be a waiting bench for people going into the restaurant, because we know it's gonna be busy.
Do we have an overhead of what that stage area looks like for outside the restaurant, if there's enough room to put a bench there?
I don't have anything like that.
I mean, I've looked at it so many times, I'm just trying to remember, but a piece like that, would be, could be great there, because obviously with his success in restaurants in Spokane, we were just at the Gilded Unicorn, and it was packed during the week, so I think that would be kind of a great idea.
And we could, the beam could be cut, is long enough, I think it could be cut into 2 benches. If we could logistically fit, because isn't it 10 or 12 feet?
Yeah, I wanna say it was about 10.
10.
It's pretty big, yeah. But it could be a win-win for, both waiting area for the restaurant, you know, showcase art and obviously spruce up the lobby. You know, so it's not so, because right now it's pretty industrial looking, and that's by design, of course, but I think it'd be kind of cool to have, a bench, maybe have that beam there, some kind of artistic flair to it would be really nice.
I mean, it can be made industrial easily with some, black iron.
Oh, yeah.
I like the idea of having two, just for groups waiting as
Yeah.
well, that if you cut it into two separate ones, just space it out a little bit.
I wouldn't want to have to cut a beam that size, but I'm sure somebody. Well, shall we,
Noelle commented too that she could help with that Jenny Hegstead connection. She knows her as well, so yeah, that'd be a good option.
awesome, Noel, thanks. Well, why don't we, I'm sorry, I apologize, I haven't been in yet. We can keep, you know, get us all in there and go look around. And then when is the restaurant supposed to open?
October?
Not till at least the first of the year.
Oh,
It's gonna be a
okay.
little.
Yeah,
I say there's nothing in there right now.
Yeah, I think I saw January in the splash once or something, but I wasn't sure if that had been updated or anything. Okay, well, we'll keep that on a kind of a back burner and did we put the beam in for next year's budget?
Yes,
I think so.
Yeah,
Okay, and then if there's a rotating wall of art, then don't the artists bring it framed or ready to hang or? So there's, other than maybe a sign explaining what the display is or something, that's minimal.
It's very minimal, I would say there's just probably almost like a little
Yeah.
note card.
kind of like that.
Yeah, just like a little note card that says the information about the artist, the piece, and if they're selling it, which I imagine
Is there a note card?
Well, there used to be. Is there not one on the left? I can't
There
see
used to
that.
be, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But
I don't see one.
I think maybe it got taken down. Yeah, there was a description explaining the,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
art.
I think maybe the artists provide that in a
Mhm.
certain, or you could slide it in a little
yeah,
folder.
we can kind of see how it goes and then develop a plan in terms of, is this sort of quarterly rotation or faster, I mean, just kind of see.
And what are the requirements? Does the person have to reside in Liberty Lake, or could it be also for people that maybe work in Liberty Lake, or, you know, how wide of a scope do we want to look at? All right, well, we'll just kind of table that until we get closer, and that'll give us time to look around and talk to a few folks.
Does the restaurant have a theme?
It's some kind of a public house, isn't it?
Well, the name is Bent Grass Public House, so it would be kind of a golf course, because golf course greens are generally bent grass greens, but
Good.
I was thinking, I didn't no idea that golf course greens are bent grass.
bent grass. Ours are not bent grass, they're polo.
All right,
Don't get me started.
next up on our agenda is a story walk update, and I saw that we had the nice picture of the color, and I love that blue, so. David, did you have something on that?
Well, I hadn't heard if the staff was able to pick up those who put them on a trailer yet. Jen, do you know if Trevor was able to?
We've been busy with barefoot, so I doubt it.
Okay.
Hey, Slope, if you're online, do you know what the plan is to pick those up?
Yeah, we haven't picked them up yet, but it should be this week or next week.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
You guys can see that they turned out amazing. The page with the attachment there, the following page is the overhead where the trail will start and where it will end.
That's a great location.
Yeah. So once we get once we know when we're going to actually install those, Trevor, if you could keep me posted on that, then I can coordinate with the library so that they can plan a book series to go with that now that we're approaching fall again.
Do you see that as different books then from Rocky Hill, or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I do.
Mhm.
I could get.
Yeah,
you
that
that,
makes
yeah.
sense, because a lot of people go to multiple ones.
So I know that, Jenny had a bunch of books picked out, so she went ahead and purchased books. I think she's got 6 or 7 of the next ones ready, at least that. I don't know if she's on the call or not. But, initially I thought it would be nice to have it themed based upon the time of the year. So, you know, but, we've kind of got that going on at Rocky Hill Park maybe she has an idea for a different
So
thing.
she's out on family leave through at least probably the end of September. Michaela Kittlestead is the interim library director. So the first time you reach out, why don't you loop me in and I'll steer you to
I'll
Michaela.
reach out to her.
And then keep in mind too, it might be kind of cool to do the very first book theme in some kind of a train orchard. Because that park's theme is trains and orchards. So like a kid's book that has something to do with trains or
On
orchards.
trains and orchards?
Trains and orchards are the
Okay.
theme for that park, yeah.
Perfect.
One thing that, we may wanna discuss at some point is the story walk at Rocky Hill, because it's a maintenance nightmare, and I don't think staff really has time to deal with it, and I think we should look at some kind of something to go under those that's gonna be weed resistant, or at least preferably weed proof, whether we end up looking at concrete, which is what the recommended material is for, Orchard Park. They're gonna, what, you know better than me about bringing it closer to the sidewalk. Was that, were you talking to me about that?
Yeah, I think Sloak and I were talking about,
Because
changing.
if somebody's handicapped, it's a little far away and it's not conducive in Rocky Hill to go
Because
to.
the little stuff there would be
The
the
barn,
ledge,
oh, the drop.
curb.
Yeah, so they were thinking for maintenance is to kind of, I mean, Trevor, do you want to explain that?
Can you
Trevor?
repeat about the maintenance issues we have with the story walk at Rocky Hill?
Well, you could, yeah, if you could talk about that and what you might think would be a solution, and then could you talk about what you want to do, at Orchard Park with the concrete, please?
Yeah. So I think the biggest issue we have at Rocky Hill is it's obviously a huge landscaped area now. We did put the weed barrier down at the time of install, but the grass clippings get in there and they start to take root, and it needs to be sprayed multiple times, and you got to get in there and hand pull at the root, and it's just a lot for staff to stay on top of. I did reach out to a concrete company to do all hardscape through the entire story walk, and the quote came back at, I believe, $17,500. So not really feasible.
And that was for both story walks?
No, that was just for Orchard Story Walk.
Just for Orchard, okay. And we don't know what cost would be. It would be similar, or probably more for Rocky Hill because the stands are farther away from the sidewalk.
Yeah, it would be a longer width there than I quoted for Orchard Park.
Do you,
So,
sorry, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
I'm just gonna say, Trevor, do you have an idea of what we might do at Rocky Hill that would be less expensive than concrete, but more effective?
Jen and I spoke today briefly. We kind of threw out some different ideas. We could do like the concrete curbing around the outside and maybe do rock. But the problem with the rock is people get in there, they move the rock around, and it becomes a hazard. The mowers go over the rock and they get shot around, thrown at people. So I think we would just have to sit down and do some brainstorming. I honestly don't know the most cost effective, easiest way to do this.
And then, was I correct in that at Orchard Park, the stands are gonna be a little closer to the sidewalk, so they're more accessible where people don't have to, leave the sidewalk to read the book?
Yes, we'll definitely install them closer to the pathway there.
What were you saying?
Well, I was just thinking about how you were going to mount those. So if you've got the sidewalk, and then you could, I mean, just theoretically, you could put just like a little archway of cement there, about the size of a half of a frisbee, and mount the pole there. Are you thinking that close? Or are you just actually thinking of setting it back in cement by itself off the path?
Yeah, I
That's-
think go ahead, Trevor.
That's what Tom and I discussed. We were talking about, so just augering holes for each stand, sonotube, and just concrete each stand into the ground.
Just to get them in and then to worry about the concrete
Yeah,
or
perfect.
the solution, whatever that's gonna be, worry about that later.
Well, Trevor will be interested in hearing your brainstorming ideas with the crew and to see what, might work best for both parks that's at least somewhat cost effective.
Yeah, we'll sit down and do some discussion there. So we'll get back to you guys on that.
All right, well, thank you so much, really appreciate
Yep.
it.
Thank you.
Anything else, folks, on Story Walk other than,
Yes, I have an email into Markets to request that they fill out that donation form so I can take it to council for approval. I haven't heard back, I just sent it today, so.
and then I'm assuming once installed that we'll have some kind of a ceremony with the mayor and have the kids there and, yeah, I think that'd be fun, because we did that at Rocky Hill, I remember that.
You know, it would be, Liberty Lake Kiwanis would be appreciative if we'd be invited to that also.
And we would love you to come.
Anyway, because of the contribution.
Yes,
So
Yes,
anyway,
I have a note
something
here.
that's good, you're way ahead of it.
Yeah, well, absolutely. We'll get a date that works for everybody.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah, it really takes a village, doesn't it? Anything else on the story wall?
No,
Okay,
really quite.
pardon me? Yep.
Okay.
All right, moving on to our action items. Let's talk about the skate park. Laura?
And so in your packet, you'll find, an artist agreement that was completed and, signed by the artist. And then behind that, there are several pictures of what his proposal includes, to cover within that artist agreement. If, the commission approves this, it would then go to council for approval. And then,
Those are cool.
yeah, budget allowing, this would
So cool.
be done this year.
Yeah, and I think that with Hoop Fest doing the two goals, that's 10,000 and this is a $9,000 project, although we probably should add about 20% on contingency when we approve it, just.
It's in the, we put it for 12 for the project total, but the artist agreement was 9.
Yeah, so we did that for 24. Do you want to follow suit with that for this year's project?
I would, yeah.
Better than having to go back.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
And I think since we're underspent in some of the other, budget line items, it should be able to be done this year. I don't see why not.
Yeah, it should be, but
Those
so
are awesome, Laura.
I think they're fantastic. This was very much, if you recall, the style that was submitted for the Town Court, the selection committee at the time just felt that it might be too busy for the basketball courts, but then as we continued discussing the park and the graffiti issues that exist at the skate park, we just thought this would be a perfect partnership to move forward with, so.
Well, I know when I gave the update to council, I said, it's kind of graffiti art to keep graffiti away. And so they got a chuckle out of that, but they were definitely thought it was a great idea.
I can really see how that could deter anybody from.
Yeah, and I think the painting that was there is fantastic. It's just kind of open still, and so this just kind of adds to that idea, because that was an Eagle Scout project and he did a fantastic job. Unfortunately, it was still just a little bit too much of a blank slate for our local graffiti artists, so.
How long has that been there?
It's
Definitely.
I want to say 4 or 5, 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
It
That's been a
wasn't
while.
too long after the beginning of the commission.
Does he use a similar paint to the courts or?
no, she ended up using a court specific paint.
No, I mean, for the skate park.
Yeah, she ended up using a court specific paint with like a grit material. So these, it would be different, but it would still be durable for the UV exposure and the weather.
Did the artist say that, how long that paint could be durable with, did they mention anything like that?
I could ask that question.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I could ask that question. I don't
Get
know. what
beaten
the-
up with those skateboards quite a bit, I would think.
Well, for comparison, I think if you look at the existing work that the Eagle Scout had done a few years ago, that was just paint purchased from Home Depot, concrete paint. So depending on what this artist uses and what treatments he does or doesn't use, I mean, you can kind of see how well or not that has weathered over time.
And aren't these are vertical surfaces, so they're not really.
Yeah. And they will,
It shouldn't be
Unless they have a special skill set, I don't know about.
These are all, on all the vertical services that are not part of the scheme feature. I'm sure there's still activity that happens on them, but, yeah. So the only, I guess, question I had is, it's a different color palette than the core mural, and they're very close together, so does anyone have any, I didn't see any concerns with that, but.
I noticed that too, but I don't really necessarily think it needs to be matchy because it's two different.
It's two
Functions.
different functions and
Yeah.
features, but that was the only.
Sets it apart instead of being an extension. Any questions about the project or comments or concerns from anyone?
Yeah, I'll go back and ask about the paint, just so we have that information. I don't know that needs to hold up the vote. And then just, I guess, another highlight is the artist is a Liberty Lake resident and grew up here as well, so I know that was something that was appealing to the council. Like that.
Would you by chance mind giving me like a sentence or two or three, just kind of highlighting what you would like me to highlight with council for the agenda bill?
Yeah.
I usually write a summary statement, and I'll put all the logistics of the agreement in that, but just who he is, why he was chosen, he's a Liberty Lake resident.
Which meeting are you?
Next Tuesday.
Next Tuesday.
Yeah, so if I could have that by maybe Wednesday?
Do you want slides again, or?
No, I'll, if you don't mind, I'll just add these in the agenda package.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just a little write-up.
yeah, just a little who he is.
So it looks like we'd be looking for a motion to approve the artist agreement and the project, and then also it should mention the the budget in this, so that we need, that's 9,000 for the artists, but I don't know how we want to list that in a motion.
So I would move a motion that we approve, submitting the artist agreement for $9,000 to city council with a project budget of $12,000.
Yes.
Second that.
Excellent.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to move ahead with this project with the details as mentioned by Laura. Any discussion on the motion? All right, seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? There's nobody left, so show it passed unanimously, please.
Laura, great work, thank you.
Thank you. I'm excited that we were able to add this to your hand.
And just for the record, what did your kids think of the design? I'm sure you shared it.
Oh, they loved it.
They
Yeah,
loved it.
no, they thought it was fun, and they're like, oh, this looks so cool, so. yeah,
That's awesome.
We're excited.
Great. So our
Yeah,
next-
mine thought the same.
awesome. Is he a skater?
We're learning. Yeah.
It's early, but maybe this will be an inspiration, right?
Yeah, he definitely wants to be a skater, and I think the design is just fantastic. I'm very excited.
Great, thank you for the feedback. Our next item is the proposed recreation program fee schedule. Jen?
Yeah, so every year I bring this forward for your review and approval. Over the years, the only change that has ever been made by the commission is to update the baseball Liberty Lake Ball Fields fee structure, which was done a few years ago. Nothing has changed in a very long time, so this is your opportunity to weigh in on the proposed program fee schedule. This will go to council with the budget packet for their approval. And in the end, when they approve the budget, this will go through and be part of that approval. So, I hadn't made any changes to this. It really needs to be decided on probably this meeting. The next meeting will be September. That'll be cutting it awfully close, although it could be doable if you wanted to discuss this further. I would suggest if you do want to jump in and make any major changes to this, that be something for discussion in January and February for next year. Depending on how involved also too, I'm looking at this, the British soccer camp, the Skyhawks camps and the Super Tots, those are all set fees. Those are their own fees. We don't have any way to change those. Those are their fees.
Do we need to add the groups that we just?
Yeah, I will add them. We need to kind of get through a season with them because I haven't received any of their registration billings yet. So I'm not quite sure what each one is. I'll put something in there notating that we have those programs now. And even if I just put TBD, because we're still waiting to find out what their fee structures are gonna look like. I have example fee structures from them, but I don't have accurate ones yet, so.
Is our fee structure, sorry, I'm stuffing my head. Is our fee structure competitive with what other cities are doing? I mean, I don't really know.
Yeah.
I wasn't here on the basis.
It
for
was back a few years ago. I haven't evaluated it recently, comparing it to others. Hopefully we'll have someone on staff that can dive into that full bore next year. I haven't had time to look and compare. As far as the initial goal of having these fees, it's mainly for some amount of cost recovery. I can't even really tell you at this point how much of that is actual, making even a dent in cost recovery, but, yeah, yes.
Well, maybe that's a good project, like you say, for next
For
year,
next
we can move forward.
Yeah. And get in some deeper discussion potentially and look at cost recovery on some of these items. Town Square Park isn't even listed on here as a outdoor facility, and it has been used significantly more this year than it ever has. So that's something to consider for next year too.
Yeah, because now there's somebody there every Friday night in the farmer's market. I'm sure there's some kind of agreement with the farmer's market.
Friday music.
Yeah.
Jen, is there a budget for the city of proposed income from these? Do you have like one line item for how much rentals would be and?
I do. I don't think it's one line item. I think it's split out through a couple of different ones, but I could look at that and get some
I was
numbers.
just curious on.
I know with Skyhawks and Challengers with the sports camps, so that it's like the top half of this whole fee schedule. Last year, I want to say we brought in about $15,000 from them alone. So I can take a look and break out some of those other groups below in that second
Yeah, I'm
half.
just curious on what percentage of budget that the city achieves, and I think that would help us guide whether
Sure.
we need to increase or stay the same.
Okay,
So are you looking for a decision to just go forward for 2024?
yeah,
With the same 2020?
unless you feel strongly that you want to hash this out, but then we would have to definitely have it lined out no later than the next meeting, so. So either approve it today, knowing that we can dive in next year, or if you're not comfortable with approving it today, we can approve it next September.
What's your recommendation?
My recommendation is to just hold steady this year. Let's finish this year out. We're making some fairly significant changes next year, which I'll actually, Mark, I'm glad you're here because I have the survey that you did, which will address some of that. So I printed this out for them.
Sure.
But yeah, we're making significant changes next year to a lot of things, and I think that would be the appropriate time to start. But I think we should start early. It's a good February project potentially.
Why is there no cost for the Trailhead banquet community room rental with the approved cleaning?
I can't answer that. Kyle Dixon, our finance director, actually just updated those. Do you know the answer to that, Mark, by chance?
Restate the question.
I was just curious on the indoor facilities, the Trailhead banquet room rental, there's no cost with approved cleaning checklist and the $75 cost without the cleaning. So I was curious why there's no.
So I'll have to double check. We recently went through and updated that to align it with what the vendor was going to charge. So that during the period of time when the restaurant is not open, if there was an event in there, we were charging the same as the vendor proposed to charge. And it was $75. I don't know why it's showing as zero. So let me confirm
I
that.
was curious, everything else was 75, not 0.
And then just so you know, Trailhead has always been a facility that has been on this list and we've charged for use of the banquet room. Once the vendor does come in, as far as I understand, it will all be them. The city won't have any ties to the reservation, the fee structure, the fees. They are overseeing all of it, they are managing all of it, they are receiving all of the,
That's all the restaurant.
yes. But until the restaurant gets in there, the city has stepped in with some, and to Mark's comments, we're matching what's in the
Yeah.
language.
Well, maybe if we are gonna approve it for 2024, where it says no cost, we should write $75.
Recommended,
Yeah,
I can make that note.
because that seems just weird to me.
So right now, a for-profit group can use that for $15. That's what I mean.
I don't have what you're referencing, so I'm not sure. The intention was not to change the cost structure, it was to align our, fee, which was previously 0, with what the vendor was proposing to charge, so that in the interim period, when they were not there, if someone wanted to use it, we were covering the cost.
So David, what you're seeing is with the old building in place.
Okay, I was just saying, that's a heck of a deal.
That's the old building structure. Yeah.
Jen, so can I was just gonna say, would it be possible to get some clarification on that and maybe we're not gonna change a bunch, but we need that
Yep.
trued up before we would
Yep.
approve it and do a vote at the next meeting?
Sure.
So just a general curiosity question, the Rotary room, is that available for rental, or does Rotary essentially own that space? And they,
They have
It's
first right
available.
refusal on
Yeah.
their day, which is.
But it's,
Tuesday at noon.
but that's not is that one of that's not a banquet room, or is that the banquet room?
so the banquet room is what we call the old facility. So that old facility is no longer there.
Yes,
So this fee schedule had not been changed since the old building went away.
yes.
So that's why, so now it's called the Kiwanis Room. It's the community event room is called the Kiwanis Room or whatever they, oh, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm sorry, Rotary Room.
but that's the room that would be available to
Yes.
rent.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
so we'll rename
And
that
then,
Rotary Room, Community
got
Event
it.
Room.
Okay, that's why I wasn't sure if that was still managed by the city or if Rotary had full rights to it, but that's a
I
first
think,
right of
the way
refusal
I
and
think
then
it's just
restaurant.
They get first,
they're entitled to that on every Tuesday.
yeah,
Got it.
and, yeah.
And then the
there's an agreement.
restaurant rental piece of it is a totally separate
Correct.
business and
Yes.
that's.
But is it the
Right.
same room?
Okay,
Yes. There's only one community event room there.
one open room and then
Yeah.
the other space is the restaurant,
Yeah,
and
and
then
the
just be
restaurant.
managed by the restaurant.
Correct.
Got it. Thank you.
By the way, that artwork is almost complete, and last week it was sitting against the wall in the Rotary Room. I don't know if anybody has seen the metal plaque that was put above the door that says, Rotary. But that artwork is, I think it's done, it's all straight wrapped. So I don't know what the schedule is to get that up and installed above the water cooler right outside the room.
Okay, what's the pleasure of the commission? What do you wanna do?
I agree with you in terms of, I don't know that we necessarily want to make any significant changes, but just have that
Clarify.
one area clarified before voting.
We'll put it on the agenda next time for a vote, and that'll be soon enough, Jen?
Yeah,
All right,
That's a deadline, we need it done for September meeting, is that what you're saying?
yes.
okay. On to our staff report.
All right. I'll keep this short and won't repeat the things you already know, but I have them noted on there. A couple things one thing that came out of Barefoot in the Park that was brought to my attention by a couple of different folks was the potential to renovate, basically flatten the bowl, what we call the bowl at Pavilion, which is the grassy area right in front of the stage. As our events grow, we're finding that there's not enough room in that bowl to set a beer garden and have demonstrations for dogs and people and activities. So, I'm not sure where we're gonna go with that. That's just an initial comment of feedback that came back to me over the weekend. So staff and I will probably be discussing that further and kind of vetting that out. The bowl itself wouldn't change. It would be probably a change that most people wouldn't notice, other than we would widen out the flat area so that it's more conducive to an event like Barefoot. The shade structure at Rocky Hill, was a little bit frustrating. I happened to follow up with them about a week and a half ago with an email saying, hey, where are we at with this? And this was approved at council several months ago. And they informed me that they dropped the ball and didn't get the order placed. And so we are just now going through all the order placement for that. And I told them it has got to be done this year. We cannot postpone this another year. So they have told me that this will get done this year. It's just getting beat down to the wire, I have a feeling. So,
I should give you some credit.
yeah, it's a little bit behind the eight ball there. There's a list of upcoming events, projects. So Rolf Getzinger came and picked up the last two trash barrels for painting. I believe he and his daughter are working on those. He said it's hot in his garage, and so he's kind of picking his days where he can take her and they can do the painting. I had to show that picture of the plow signing at Barefoot. That was so cool. I mean, the kids just love that. And you know what's cool about it, coming from the perspective of city staff who have to go out and plow, and we get a lot of angry citizens who don't like what we do. We get a lot of grateful citizens who do support us, but there are definitely many that don't always appreciate the crew. And I think it's cool because when the kids are signing these in the summer, and then the plows go by this winter, they have some kind of ownership in that piece of equipment. So it really, there's more to that than just a kid signing a plow.
Well, I think that whole, touch a truck, you know, gives the city crew, you know,
Yeah,
a pat on the
Puts-
back to show.
it puts
let them-
faces
let them
that they're
shine.
human beings and they're people and they work really hard and they're humble and yeah, the community wouldn't get to see that otherwise. And that goes a long ways during snow season. So on the back, we already talked about Hoop Town, Story Walk. I had an email. Yes, no, what's today? Monday. It wasn't yesterday. Must've been Friday. She sent me, what was her name? The gal, the representative for Smarty Signs, and she wanted to know of an update.
Remy,
Yeah,
Remy
Remy
Salami.
Salami. Is there anything I need to update her on? Do you just want me to advise her that we have put these on the agenda or on the strategic plan for 24? Is that the update? I thought that's probably what it was, but.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell her our goal was to do, one a year,
Okay,
providing, you know, we get good feedback.
I'll update her and I'll copy you.
What was the first park we voted on? Was it Rocky Hill or Orchard?
Oh, did we?
I know we talked about it in the, and
Because we didn't wanna
it was,
showcase Pavilion too much and.
I think we talked about Orchard because
Yeah.
it's so busy and it's all right there.
yeah, it was in the 5-year plan. I think we called out specific.
I'll double check. I don't think I have it in the 5-year plan that way.
I'll have to go back and look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think we were trying to, because Pavilion's done a lot this
But I
year,
think Rocky Hill.
Rocky or Orchard was.
Is the best choice for,
I thought it was Orchard for the first one, just
Yeah.
because of the traffic, but
Yeah,
that part.
and the fact that the playground and the splash pad are so close together.
do we need to put that in writing, or do we?
I think we can do that later probably,
Okay.
or you can do it now, but. So I'll send her a note on that, and then, recreation, reservations, events. Pickleball league was approved by council at the last meeting, skipping Barefoot. Satori agreement was approved, we're just, with both of them, we're working through the last stages of collecting insurances, background checks, but I know that, I think both of them are gonna start as soon as that is all cleared through. Barefoot, obviously, for those of you who weren't there, it was awesome this year. I mean, it was fairly uneventful as events go. Smooth, easy, a lot of work, but everybody jumped in and did what they needed to do, and it was awesome.
The humidity was something else, wasn't it?
Yeah. Oh, and council approved the 3-year symphony agreement.
If I could, spend a couple minutes bringing everybody up to date on what's going on with the symphony, for the upcoming concert. Everything is working out really, really well, and there are some things that, are being done by the city that we haven't done before, and I think that's pretty cool. There's been a Zoom interview with James Lowe. And then there's been working on some signage, which is really neat. And the one thing that I think would be great is there will be a podcast, okay, including about the symphony, about Red Kramer, and then, you know, what he has brought to the city and why, the concert is named after him. So I've got one email that I set up with all kinds of information, and I have to kind of streamline it. But I don't think I've ever been this far along at this time of year, with what's going on, the planning, and everybody has, up to date. So as soon as I get it cleared up, I'll send it off to you, okay, and you can distribute it wherever you want.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for all your hard work on that. It's gonna be a great time.
I want to say one thing about changing the bowl. Okay,
Yeah, please. Please do.
I have an affinity when I'm standing up on the stage and looking out. And it just, my heart goes, dum, 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 dum. Okay, because you see that mass of people, you know, going up the hill, okay, and, just be warned.
I think the goal would be, only to amend or renovate the bottom. The goal would be to do it so discreetly that most people won't notice a change.
Yeah. I
Because
just-
there's a lot of history to that. You know, I don't wanna see it change, but I understand the logistics of it if we're gonna grow these events, but my goal and foresight would be to leave it as close to what it appears like now, and not visually change it,
yeah,
just grade and flatten that bottom a little bit better.
Sometimes to the east, it's more flat.
Possibly.
Yeah, the stage looks
Yeah,
right.
possibly. Because it kind of dips down and because it's like a cup, and because you have that rounded bottom, just going in and taking that and just smoothing that out and either building it up so it's, or cut it out, you know, but I mean, we would not visually change and alter that goal.
No, I'm just kidding.
Well, I don't want to see it
I
change, so,
wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Whatever you guys do, it'll be good.
Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Awesome, thank you.
Last couple of items, Centennial Trail, I sit on the Centennial Trail Coordinating Council. And that's the group that oversees the entire Centennial Trail from beginning to end to state line. We are planning on the trail being overlaid in 2 phases, beginning sometime in the spring. It was supposed to happen this year, it did not. And they're starting from state line, and I tried to get some information. I can't remember the exact mileage, but it's roughly the first half of the trail from state line to the west. So that's going to definitely affect some events that use the trail in the springtime and potentially early summer, but the trail is in dire need of renovation. And then I believe they'll do the second phase, in the following year, so 2025. As Hometown Heroes banner update, so many of the flags, the brace at the bottom of the pole that straps to the Vista light poles, they are snapping in half. They're just weak or something, I'm not sure. But we've picked up many flags off that have fallen. So, Avista is in the process right now. I have all the replacement parts in my office. Avista is going to, hopefully in the next week, be out to reinstall all the flags back to their, yeah. And the other strange thing that didn't happen last year that's happening this year is the flags are tangling where they're hung on the 2 spots from the pole. And so our crews have actually gone in and took 1 or 2 of them down because it just seems disrespectful to leave it tangled. I don't know, we just made a judgment call to
Yeah,
take it down.
the wind's been so strong.
It's been a lot worse this
Compared
year.
to what we've
Yeah.
seen before, but.
So that, and the flags have been up a lot longer this year than they were last year, so that's probably why we're seeing that. The last thing, at the very last page, and Noel, I'm so sorry you don't have this, next time, let me know if you're gonna stay home and I'll email you the packet so you can look at all of this. But we have, the results of, I believe this was the Community Engagement Commission's survey. Was it?
No, the city survey.
Oh, city
Yeah.
survey that they supported and pushed out through various venues. But it's kind of interesting. I don't think we need to go through it. You can have it for your reading pleasure. But there is a lot of good information on this, and it may help in some of the conversations of the Parks and Arts Commission here in the future. I was really surprised by some of these rankings. But it's really good information to have. So.
Mark, can you tell us a little bit about how the survey is gonna be utilized by the city?
Sure. So a couple of qualifying reminders up front. So the content of the survey that was put out for the public to respond to was based upon the artifacts that were collected from the strategic planning workshop that the council conducted on March 4th. So this wasn't like an open-ended, tell us what you think, and this was all of the feedback. What we did is we took the kind of all of the artifacts in these different categories that council had created during that workshop, and we put that out to the public for them to respond to. And so what you're seeing there, particularly in the questions that ask people to kind of choose whether, you know, things that they're satisfied with living in the city, unsatisfied, future opportunities, kind of tell us what your priorities are. Those are all things that were fairly fixed based on the council's discussion on that March 4th workshop. And so anyway, based on that, all of the feedback that we received, as you can see there from the kind of the summary that Jen provided, we're now going to take that back to the council. They have a follow-up strategic plan workshop on August the 22nd. And based on all of the review of that information, plus just the fact that they've now had several months to kind of marinate in their own discussion that occurred on March 4th, they're going to take all of that information, they're going to whittle it down. Hopefully the goal on August 22nd is to come out of that meeting with a new vision statement for the city, strategic priorities, and then consensus on what the city's values should be going forward. And so that's the goal for August 22nd. Whether we get all of those decided or not, we'll see. We may have to come back and take another bite at the apple, but long-term goal is to have the next strategic plan adopted before the end of this year. So that would then be covering the period of 2024 through 2028.
Okay, thank you. And I have one more quick question while we have you here. I had read or saw somewhere online, I think that there was, it was brought up at council about baseball fields or something, about lack of, and I would assume at some point if that became an issue, it would come through the Parks and Arts Commission, but what can you tell us about that?
So there was a conversation that seems like it was a couple of months ago regarding the availability and the quantity of available fields in the city. And so what council requested that staff do was come back and talk about the inventory of available fields and then kind of what some opportunities may be to expand that or change that. And Jen, you provided the presentation, so you may have remember more of the specific details, but there was information that was provided to council from staff and from the Little Leagues, just generally about ball fields. It was specifically centered on baseball fields with respect to you know, just the amount of teams that need space and the space that's available, and the fact that in some cases they have to either stack practices or go to different locations outside of Liberty Lake to practice, those kinds of things. Do you have other details that you'd like to share?
Yeah, basically, to what Mark is saying, what I did is shared what potential options there are. And I laid out what parks we have, where there could potentially be field spaces added, which is not very many places. And the consequences of doing so. So for example, I said you could add field space at Rocky Hill Park, but the only way to do that would be to overlay the soccer fields, which are heavily used. And I put the diagrams on the screen. And if you did that, you're gonna lose your soccer fields or at least significantly decrease the capabilities of soccer out there. And so as staff, I wouldn't recommend that as a solution. It's something they could do, and I also made note that physically that park drops right in the middle of that park. And so that interrupts space and there's no, I mean, you could renovate the park, that's another solution. But that would be you would have to tell us that's what you want to do, council. Same with pavilion, I went through that whole thing. And then, my last goal was, okay, well, what other ideas outside of the city? Because we're pretty well built out there's nowhere else that we could build field space. Town Square Park, we could put fields there. Is that the right place to do it? As staff, I wouldn't recommend it. We don't know what that's gonna be master plan to look like. Could they do it? Sure, they could do it. They can fund it and they can have them put there. But I suggested, potential at the CV elementary schools, those have great potential to be renovated and made into fields. However, that's not a discussion that the city can have because it's not our property. So the league would need to approach Central Valley School District and have that conversation. We just maintain those grounds. We do not own that property. So I think what came out of it was, yes, there are other alternatives and options. Are they conducive and the right ones? A lot of them aren't, from my personal staff opinion. But they could be made to change. They wanted to propose, the league wanted to propose that we put more baseball fields in a pavilion park. Again, while that could be a potential, that would not be my recommendation because that park is so busy and dedicated to events that would really put a kink in some of the existing things that are already happening in that park. Plus it would put in a heavy load on that park. Again, it's already loaded, it doesn't need more activities. So it's going to be interesting. I think the gun club property was suggested at that meeting as potential. Again, that's Central Valley School District grounds. They need to have that conversation with them. The old Safeco baseball field that the Riverview Little League used to use, right? It's off Appleway, the Sealed Safeco building. I don't know what it used to be. Violet. Now it's where the Les Schwab is going in.
Oh, right there.
Yeah, there's an actual baseball diamond back there with a big backstop. And it's just not been used in years, but they're actually, it's been sold and they're building something there, so. Lots of options, so we kind of troubleshooted everything and didn't come up with any conclusions, but I'm sure it's an ongoing conversation that will continue.
I have a question I drive by the baseball fields pretty much a few times a day. Cause I just live right behind them. It just seemed like they weren't used as much this year.
They're booked solid,
Maybe it's
they're
just,
booked solid.
maybe
Well,
it's just the games I'm thinking of.
It's because the bulk of the day they are not used, they're maintained. So the crews come in and maintain them till about 4 or 5 PM. So there's really no usage all day long, but that's what's kind of doesn't make sense about baseball, but that's how the world works with baseball oftentimes. Not used all day, they're maintained all day, and then the groups come in starting around 5 PM and they'll play till dusk. And if you saw our reservation calendar, it's just solid.
Probably the practices which are the most taxed, I imagine, the number of teams that are wanting to practice.
Well, yeah, and the Little League specifically was asking for dedicated ball field spaces where they can have a dedicated concession stand and they can have a dedicated storage area. I mean, ideally they were asking for a Merkle in a sense, maybe not to that grandeur, but they were asking for something similar to that complex. And we definitely, I don't know where we would put a complex here on city property. Maybe without some major
What
regulation.
about the hubs expansion? I
It's
see the
not-
master, is
It's
that
no ball fields,
baseball,
it's soccer.
soccer and
Football, soccer, football, lacrosse.
And a multi-use.
Yes.
Yeah, and pickleball courts, I know.
Yeah.
And apparently, my suggestion was, could you go through and use Selkirk and Ridgeline and they do use Selkirk, there's some issues with it. And then Ridgeline is, it sounds like Ridgeline, they're fairly tight about who they allow to use their field spaces.
Yeah, I have two youth baseball players and we're all over the area for games and practice.
That's normal, yeah, but
Fairly normal, but those fields are
yeah,
typically, I feel like older club teams.
Yeah.
New club teams in the middle school teams. Were, I mean, that they're always in use.
so,
I feel like
Thank
there
you.
used to be, I feel like there used to be a ball field over by Legends. Am I imagining that? Or was
No.
that already discussed?
that was there where the apartments are now, and there was a hockey rink over there. There was a fairly large, softball, baseball complex over there. You remember right? Yeah, it's been a long time. Long time ago.
And one other thing while we have you here, Mark, Jen's aware, because we have updated our strategic plan and reviewed it, so we knew what we were supposed to be doing, what our assignments are. And, one of them is to, advise and work with council on projects like if there was a consideration of the baseball, but also we're aware that the town square master plan is coming up on the council's plan, I think, and that we would hope that we would be able to have some kind of seat at the table or some type of involvement as that process is gone through.
Yeah, so on that one specifically, the town square master plan, whatever that's going to end up looking like, I would agree 100%, like with any kind of master planning effort, you should have as part of that agenda, assembling all of the stakeholders and kind of starting there, right? And so whomever would be our consulting partner on that effort, we would expect for that to be done on the front end, and then to use that for those groups of people throughout the process to make sure that they're testing assumptions and using the input base on all of that expertise to come out at the end with the best plan possible. So absolutely, that's going to be part of the program.
Awesome. I mean, I just feel like as a city, we're fairly new, and then as a Parks and Arts Commission, we're even newer, so that we're still working through the coordination and how everything meshes and we work together for the greater good of the city. So thanks. That's something exciting to look forward to.
Sure.
All right, any questions on the survey or comments? So back to the agenda. Is anything else on your staff report?
That is all I have.
Anything else, commissioners, for the greater good? Then we're adjourned.